Hey guys, this is Clayton, Olson, and Jack Butler.
Hey.
Hey, and we are talking about how to make relationships work. And in this video, we're going to talk about something that Jack said in passing, and I'm really curious about. This is the first time hearing it live on camera for me.
This is Liquid Live. This is
Liquid Live, yeah.
We're exploring this together for the first time. We're not sure where it's going.
Yes. So who knows? You're going to be part of this experience, and it's the concept of we space, or the idea of what is we space, and how can we make relationships work better when we understand we space. So do you want to just dive into that, and then I'll ask some questions and maybe throw in some of my own ideas as well?
Yes.
Cool.
So one way that we could think about relationship is I, right? Two people.
Okay.
Kind of who are in there, I want this, I desire this, I have this view, I have this preference.
Yes.
And then there's a place that we come together where we could be in the we, like we have some kind of preference, we are doing this. And what you'll find with couples is that they quite often slip into we quickly, right? And they can lose their I. So it's always like, we're doing this, we're going there, we want this, we want that sofa. And when you hear couples like that, you're like, what do you actually want, right? So in relationship, if we think about it as a polarity between autonomy, independence, and connection or dependence, right? Ideally, most of us are going to want both of those things, and it's going to be some kind of dynamic process. So we have a lot of connection, then we want to move into our independence. We've had a lot of time alone. We want to come and have some intimacy, and that how you navigate that, how much you're in the I and how much you're in the we, is often a real clue to relationship health.
Interesting. So is there a percentage then, or is there it sounds like there's a dance that's occurring.
I think that's a better way of thinking about it.
Okay,
yes,
totally. Or a pendulum that's swinging back and forth.
Absolutely, that's
and
it.
So one of possibly pulling away and having a little bit of independence and then coming together in terms of intimacy?
Right. Yeah, ideally we do it not pulling away in the sense of I'm sort of leaving you emotionally. Like it'd be like, we're good, and I'm going to go spend some time over here.
And I'm going to be an independent person and connect with my I.
Right.
And then when I come back together with you, we both occupy something called this we space.
Right. And that increasingly, as we become more conscious, we can start to feel and experience the quality of our we space. Like what is actually here between us in the present moment. There's a kind of texture to this third point of the relationship. So there's at least two ways I think you can think about we space. One is in the very present moment, what is actually going on in our relational field? What does it feel like? What's here? What's my experience of being with you? And conscious relating, authentic relating, these bodies of work have a lot to kind of talk about that. And then there's thinking of the third point of the relationship, right? So I could literally kind of, if this were the relationship here, I could get up and walk over there and be looking back and talking from a third person perspective, what's going on in the relationship. And that can be really good practice because it can often free things up that when I'm in the we space or even the I, it's harder for me to get in contact with. Whereas if I'm looking at the relationship over there, I'm like, it seems like there's some confusion going on in the relationship.
So is that something that you would have access to, that perspective, when you are able to step out of the we space and go back into your I to look at the relationship? Is that what's happening? Is that the architecture that you're speaking to, or am I missing it?
Well, you're not in the I, you're in the he and she. You're in the it, because you're outside of it. You're more like the coach or the therapist looking to the seat that you normally occupy and saying what's going on in their we space. But because you objectify it over there, you get distance.
Interesting.
And you get new insight.
Okay, so by creating this boundary around what it is with I space and we space, what I'm hearing you say is it allows people that are in relationship then to have better perspective on the things that are occurring.
Absolutely.
So in that better perspective allows them to have more flexibility, to enter into interactions in a way that is going to be congruent with what they want, rather than reacting to things emotionally. Okay. Is there anything else in terms of benefit of understanding the we space?
One problem that's common in relationship is people's tendency to merge. Right, which is yummy. It's a really important part. Like that, you could say, in the instinctual model that we both know, that sexual instinct has a lot to do with that desire for union.
And when you say merge, you mean almost like a loss of identity, right? Where you are just one with the other person.
Right. Yeah. And that experience can be really beautiful, powerful, intoxicating.
Yes.
And if I can never move back into the I, then there's a danger that I'm losing myself in the relationship.
Yeah.
And what we know is in the fullness of time, that's probably going to engender, a lack of empowerment. It's probably going to engender some resentment because at a certain point I lost myself.
Yes.
And again, with things like the Enneagram, we could name certain types, for example, that would be more prone to that sort of behavior. But we're all at some level prone to that kind of behavior because we want to be close, and often to be close, we have to let certain things go. But it's about navigating that pendulum swing in a way where you're not really disowning yourself. Sure, you might make sacrifices and compromises, but you're doing it with awareness,
right?
And you're doing it with full responsibility. So you're backing your decisions.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so what we were talking about off camera was this other concept that I saw similarities between this we space that Jack's talking to and a model that I learned from a coach actually named David Kruger. It's called the intersubjective third. And the intersubjective third, it's a fancy way of saying...
No, love that. It's just Kruger, and I'm right back to Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm like, oh, Freddy's brother David, who's a coach.
Yeah, I learned about this model in a dream, actually. It was a nightmare, and I'm here to tell you about it. So the model is that when two people come together, they create a third entity, which essentially you would call the we space.
Yes.
And this third entity, another way of looking at it, another perspective of looking at this we space or this intersubjective third is that in order for it to live and breathe, it's actually alive. It's changing. It's moving. In order for it to live, it has to consume something. Ooh. And what does it consume? What does it eat to stay alive? Well, it eats and consumes the conversation that you have with your partner.
Okay.
It consumes the way that they listen to you. It consumes also the dialogue that you have in your mind about them.
Right.
And the dialogue they have in their mind about you.
Right.
And also the things that you think about yourself that you think no one hears. And then the intersubjective third reflects that to both people. And this is why lying in a relationship, and this is why sometimes couples can you just know what someone's thinking, right? You just can start to, when you really tune in, you can predict what they're going to do. You can start finishing each other's sentences.
Right.
You may be saying all the right things, but for some reason they just know when you're lying. And it's because this idea, this intersubjective third, is reflecting all of these different elements simultaneously to both partners at the same time.
Right.
And what it does, the power of understanding relationships that way is that there is, again, this goes back to the idea of responsibility. You have a responsibility around the way that you talk about your partner behind their back.
Sure you do.
You have a responsibility around how you talk about them in your head and what you hold on to and don't express. So if you've got these feelings that you're not expressing,
they're kind of coming out sideways.
They're coming out sideways. The intersubjective third is reflecting them to the other partner, and they are getting this distorted almost image of them. Or what's happening is they're feeling like, hey, there's something happening here, and he doesn't have the courage or she doesn't have the courage to name it, and therefore I feel less safe because I don't really know where I stand with them.
Right. So if you were having that experience...
Having which experience?
Well, you're with your partner and you're like, I don't quite sense they're telling me everything or I'm not feeling safe.
Yeah.
How would you go about navigating that?
Yeah, that's fascinating. So you're saying if you're in the situation and you feel like the person is got something that they feel, or you're picking up on something.
Picking up on something, something's kind of off. Because we sometimes get that in a relationship, and you're not wanting to trigger, you're not wanting to get into some kind of fight, but you also don't want to disown your intuition. Yeah, well, going back to what we talked about in some of these other videos, it would be being able to have the courage to name your experience. Right. Name your experience that, hey, look, I'm feeling that there's something not being said, or I'm feeling that there's something between us and I'm not really sure what it is. And it's almost like you're putting an invitation out there for them to feel safe enough to express whatever's within them, and that you're not going to attack them. Yes. Because a lot of times what happens is people don't actually express their emotions to other people because they feel, one, that it's a vulnerable act, right? And that they might get attacked. Right, so that's actually two things, right? One, it's vulnerable. I'm revealing a part of me that I don't even know how to handle yet, right? And I actually want to have like an understanding or a way to control this before I present it. I want to package it up nicely before I present it in its raw state. And then two, what happens if I do that and it doesn't land? Like, because I'm emotionally vulnerable, and then they take it badly.
They might take it badly, and I'm not in control of that. I'm not in control of how they react, right? So a lot of times people are not being vulnerable because you're almost indirectly trying to control the other person's experience rather than allowing them to have it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if that were going on, that would be a really important dynamic to be in contact with.
Absolutely.
And to be able to name.
Yes.
So this is an invitation for you to notice the dynamic that's in the relationship if you're in one right now, or the kind of dynamic that you want to invite in a future relationship. If you got value from this, please hit like. If you haven't got value from this, please hit like. And if you didn't even watch all this video, please hit like. We'd love you to subscribe to our channel, and we'll be back soon. Good being with you.
Yeah, and if you didn't hear anything Jack said, just hit like.
I like that.